think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to the September 11th, 2023 Town of Ithaca Board meeting. Of course, I know that many of us remember very much what happened 22 years ago on September 11th. So there's been lots of remembrances in the media today. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with persons to be heard for an item for which there is not a public hearing. There was no one present with us in the boardroom. Paulette, is there anyone in the waiting room?
I do not see anyone in the waiting room or in the actively participating raising their hand.
Okay, and any general board comments before we start? If not, we will start with the dissolution plans for the Town of Ithaca Streetlight District. So I will open up 9 public hearings at 5:31, and I'll just read which districts the dissolution plans are for, all of them. Burleigh Drive, Forest Home, Glenside, Renwick Heights, Eastwood Commons, Clover Lane, Winter Circle Subdivision, West Haven Road, and Coddington Road. So this is to consider approving the dissolution plans for all 9 of these. And we're doing this because the bookkeeping burden and administrative expenses were disproportionate to the minimal cost involved to the residents in these lighting districts. So it just really made common sense to take this step. There is no significant adverse impact on the environment by dissolving these lighting districts. So I'll pause to see if there are any members of the public who would like to address us on any of these 9 lighting district dissolutions. Again, there's no one here in the boardroom with us. Paulette, has anyone joined us?
No, no one has joined the meetings and I do not see anybody.
Okay, I will close the 9 public hearings at 5:33 and see if someone would like to move the resolution approving the dissolution plans for. Do I have to do them one at a time, Susan?
I think you should, and I think you should do a roll call vote.
Okay, so let's start with the Burleigh Drive. Would someone like to move the resolution?
I'll move.
Second.
Rob and Rich seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call.
A roll call. Okay. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Rod is an aye.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
All okay. We're going to repeat this 8 times now. So we are moving on to the Forest Home. Would someone like?
Yeah, you
to...
forgot me, Rod.
Oh, I'm sorry, Margaret. Margaret, are you
Hi.
an aye? Yes, I meant to say at the beginning of the meeting that Bill Goodman is absent today, and Margaret meets the criteria under our virtual attendance policy, so she'll be able to fully participate this evening. Sorry about that, Margaret.
That's okay.
Okay, Forest Home. Would someone like to move the resolution?
I'll move
dissolving? Pam, is there a second?
Second.
Rich seconds. Comments, questions? All those in, does each one need to be a roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and Margaret.
Aye.
Okay. Next is Glenside Lighting District.
I'll move it.
Eric moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Rich seconds. Rob,
Aye.
Pam.
Aye.
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 Margaret.
Aye.
Renwick Heights.
Move.
Second.
Did
I'll
Pam-
put Eric.
Pam And is there a second?
Second.
Eric seconds. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
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 Margaret,
Aye.
Eastwood Commons.
I'll move it.
Rob moves,
Second.
Pam seconds. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
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 Margaret,
Aye.
okay. Clover Lane,
I'll move it.
Eric moves.
Second that.
Rich seconds. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
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 Margaret,
Aye.
It's like an Abbott and Costello. or something.
Winners Circle subdivision. Who would like-
I'll move that.
Rich, are you in? Are you in? there?
No, but I just want to get rid of it.
Okay.
Never liked it.
Rich and Eric seconds. Rob,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
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 Margaret,
Aye.
West Haven,
I'll move.
Pam moves. I'll second. Rob,
Aye.
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 Margaret,
Aye.
and last but not least, Coddington.
I'll move Coddington.
Eric
I'll
moves
second that.
and Rich seconds. Rob,
Aye.
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 And Margaret.
Yep.
Okay, that was pretty efficient. Donna, congratulations on, we're taking some work off your plate, Donna. How about that? And Susan, thank you for your help putting these together. Moving on to another public hearing. This is regarding a public interest order for the Ithaca area wastewater treatment facility. It's an additional boiler replacement and facility improvements. We talked about this a fair amount. It took us a while to make sure all the material was together. You can see that we moved the resolution approving expenditures of a bit over $1.3 million. There's a fairly long resolution, but I think we've talked about this in the past, so I'm not planning on focusing on this too much. We'll see if there's questions once we move in second. Would someone like, well, we'll open the public hearing at 5:37. Again, there's no one in the boardroom waiting to address the board on this topic,
No, there's not.
and no one in the Zoom world. So I will close the public hearing. Would someone like to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Rich, is there a second?
I'll second.
Rob, so are there questions or comments? Does anyone need to be reminded? We've had this almost before us, and then we've had to wait till all the information was in place. Any questions, comments?
I'll comment as a member of the joint sewer committee, that this is much needed repairs and a good investment in the future of the plant, which is, this equipment is 40 years old at this point.
You want to say anything, Rick?
Well, I just was curious, has there been any initial discussion or determination as to how we intend to finance this? I know that there are all kinds of options.
I think
referred
it
to in
says
here.
in it how it's going to be.
Well, it
funded.
says that there are a range of options. I didn't know whether or not we had.
Donna,
It will either be fund balance or bonding, and I'm still accumulating projects to bond because we're trying to reach that $5 million threshold. So Yeah.
Got it.
till
Thank
we
you.
figure that out, we can cover it.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions or comments? All,
Roll call.
this is a roll call. So Rob,
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
and Margaret.
Yes.
know.
Aye.
Does it meet the letter of the law that I'm not actually saying names, Susan? People are seeing who's saying aye, right? So it's too late. I shouldn't have asked you that.
I think we've done it that way before.
We have a record.
Okay, she's
We have a
smiling.
video.
Okay, she'll really stop us if we go off the deep end, so. moving on to another public hearing. This is a local law amending Town of Ithaca Code, Chapter 148. It's also a seeker to add all signs except off-premise signs to the type 2 list. There's a memo that Chris Balestra put together that was sent out, and then there's the seeker, and then there's the actual resolution adopting the revised local law. So I will open the public hearing. At 5:40, again, there are no folks here in the boardroom to address the board on this topic.
Nobody in the waiting room or indicating they want to.
So we will close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments about this?
I have a question. Was this motivated just to make the procedures easier, or this was something that was really not necessary and it was an unnecessary burden on the procedures? Is that what it was?
Well, I don't know, Marty or CJ. I have an answer, but I one of the two of you. They're looking at each other.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out who's gonna answer this, but I believe part of this component was that we switched over previously. Our local law was amended to allow for staff administration to review and make recommendations interdepartment on sign permits. And so what we needed to do is make sure that seeker was still not required, because it would be a little bit more difficult for staff to be able to work through that process than it would be if it were to go to a board level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there is also another reason, which was that a lot of times applicants coming in for site plan review before the planning board wouldn't have their sign details ready yet. And so the site plan would get approved. And then if they came in with sign details and the sign required a variance, it went to ZBA, and the ZBA was having to do seeker just on the sign. And it just felt awkward having that whole situations. And since on-premise signs are all regulated in the ways described in Chris's memo and in the environmental assessment form, staff felt there really wouldn't be a need to do an environmental review, that those really should be added to the type 2 list.
Good. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move the speaker.
Okay, would someone like to second the seeker?
Second.
I heard Pam's first. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the seeker resolution, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And then moving on to adopting the local law, amending the material. Would someone like to move that resolution?
I'll move that.
Rich, I'll second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on to number 6. This is authorization to apply for a Park Foundation grant to help with securing Sage Preserve. The funding would go to help offset the cost of the town. You'll remember that we did submit an application to the state. We won't hear about that till probably December through the what's that process called?
Consolidated funding application.
Right. Would someone like to move the resolution? I'll move it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Eric seconds. Questions or comments? And you can see they're due September 22nd. My guess is Mike is probably well underway to work on that grant application. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Unanimous. Number 7. So I don't know, meeting ago or 2 meetings ago, we talked about the distributed energy resource plan that's associated with the community choice aggregation, now known as Tompkins Green Energy Network. Susan has met a couple of times now with Paul Fenn of Local Power. So we have made some revisions from the draft that you saw 2 meetings ago, I'll say. But nothing, I don't think anything that changed sort of how we plan on rolling this out. I think it was just clarifying some things, maybe adding some definitions to the project. You know, I think this is pretty exciting if residents choose to take advantage of this. I think it could be a changer for some neighborhoods. We're doing this in conjunction with the city. I believe that they approved this last Wednesday at the city council meeting. So I'll first see if anyone wants to move the approval of the plan.
Well, this,
And I'll second. Rich and I are quite familiar with this plan at this point. So are there, you know, we didn't choose to have Hillary again, but Rich and I are pretty familiar with the plan. Susan now is pretty familiar with the plan. If you have questions before we vote, any questions or comments?
Susan, I did pursuant to our discussion last week about the language related to cooperatives. Have you given any further thought or done any further research on that and you know, versus say partnerships or any other structure? Or is that something that it remains to be determined?
Yeah, it still remains to be determined. The way this is worded, I think I added a sentence saying that the word cooperative is not, means it could take any of a number of legal structures. It doesn't necessarily mean a cooperative corporation, so that there's flexibility. I have communicated with the city attorney's office, and Ari Levine pulled in Victor Kessler and some other people from town staff, from city staff. And so we're all sort of collectively looking at this together. So whatever we come up with, it should be something that the town and the city agree on, but we don't have a definitive answer yet to that.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Unanimous. So I'll make sure I also thank Hillary. Rich, thank you for your work on this. And again, it's been in partnership with the city. Moving on to the next item, this is consider approval of an agreement with Black Power to apply for NYSEG economic development incentives for air source heat pump project at Ithaca area wastewater treatment facility. So you have a memo in your packet from Black Power talking about this to allow the city on behalf of all the municipal owners to apply for a $200,000 incentive for the heat pump. So it's pretty exciting that that's a possibility. Would someone like to move the resolution?
Yes.
Rich moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Pam seconds. There are questions, comments about this? I'm assuming this was discussed at SJC.
I have no recollection.
It was
of this
not
having
discussed at
been discussed.
SJC.
So Susan, I think it came up outside of SJC then, correct?
Yes, and I know Common Council approved it last Wednesday. Dryden, it's been sent to Dryden. I'm not sure when their meeting is. It might be later this week, but the applications need to be submitted by September 13th. That's possibly the end of the program date. So yeah. So I think the city is prepared to move ahead. They're waiting, I think, to hear what the town board does, and then they're ready to move ahead with the letter agreement.
Yeah, is the project contingent upon receiving this incentive, or is it?
No, it's not. So the public interest order that you just approved has the full amount of the heat pump project. So this $200,000 economic incentive would decrease the cost of that project by that amount if it's received, which I think everybody expects it will be. They just, want the help of Block Power to make that application. And
Okay,
what's
thank
happening is I think the Public Service Commission is going to end the program either at its meeting on September 14th or its meeting in October. And since Block Power doesn't know which meeting that's going to happen at, they really want to get the application in on September 13th in case it ends the next day.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, that's the timing issue.
Any other questions or comments? Not all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on to the recognition of appreciation for Lori Shirtliff, who will be leaving us at the end of September. I like some of the wording in the resolution. A happy, smiling good morning to everyone. With her nurturing nature, she tended the flowers. So Lori's a great person. I know some of you probably don't know Lori that well, but you know, we're excited for her, but it will be a loss for us. So if you happen to be at Public Works in the next 3 weeks, make sure you say goodbye to Lori. So would someone like to move the recognition? And there is a
I'll move.
folder going around to sign the resolution.
I'll move.
Rob's for a second. Pam seconds. Assuming there's no questions, but any questions about this? If not, all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
And we're pretty sure that Lori's probably not watching this evening. Some of us will be at a Public Works Committee meeting and get to see her before she leaves. So, tell her that we did pass this.
We will. We're having a luncheon on Friday.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. Would someone like to move the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
Eric, is there a second?
Second.
Rich, all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Right.
It's unanimous. Any reported town officials or committees? I will mention that on September 28th, there will be a Tompkins County Food Summit. If any board members or department heads are interested. I don't know if Mike goes to these. Anyway, September 28th at Treatment Center. If you might be interested, I can forward you more information about the Tompkins County Food Summit. There was correspondence, right, that went out. Any other reports?
I have a question for folks who went up to the opening of the Dalai Lama Library.
Who went? Did anybody attend from the town?
Yeah, yeah, there were several of us there.
You
And
and
what's the
Paula?
question?
Well, I mean, just give us a
Oh, it's a
synopsis of
wonderful,
how it went.
was it, well,
From a.
it was a wonderful event and our codes people did have to say, okay, some of you have to leave this room because there's too many of you in this room.
You brought the hammer down at the
It was
Dalai
done
Lama?
very
Soft hammer?
gracefully.
Okay.
It was, you know, it was a very meaningful event. It's a beautiful building. The statue up front is incredible. I don't know if you've had any reason to drive up there. And I didn't walk around to see the Land Rover. What's the story about the Land Rover? Did any of you walk behind the building? What's the story?
He wrote in it last.
That's because the Bentley was in the shop.
So there's a Land Rover that I think is a permanent
Yes.
there. It's really a beautiful facility. It was very
It was
well
stunning.
attended. There, you know, lots of speakers, of course, and it was a 3-day event. So we chose to we sort of quietly left, probably 12:31-ish. But yeah, for those of you who were there, anything you want to, Marty, anything you want to say about the event?
No, I have nothing to add to your comments associated with it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we're always concerned about the safety, public safety.
So no Dalai Lama sighting site.
No,
So
no, he was.
maybe Bruce Springsteen, anybody? No?
No, it was great. Yeah, and I didn't have to, you know, well, anyway, it was a really, really nice event and a beautiful day for it. Any other reports?
I
do-
got to go on a boat tour of Cayuga Lake that was hosted by Anna Callis, and our sustainability planner joined me in repping the town. And we got talks by the staff about the importance of taking care of the lake and some of the climate burdens and other types of burdens on the lake from human activities. And then we rounded out the tour by returning to the farmers market for a talk on PFAS. So it was really informative with the board from the talk.
Thank you, Margaret. And then Hillary Swartwood, I think, also attended, right? Our sustainability planner.
Yes. Yep.
So the town was represented. So thank you very much. Anything else that folks want to mention? We are going to go into executive session. So to discuss the personnel history of a particular person. Most of you can.
You need a second. for
Is there a second for going into
Second.
executive session? PM? All
Thank
those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Should I leave?
Judy, yeah, I don't think you need to be here, Susan.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Say it again.
You don't need to be here.
Okay,